Thank you guys for coming in here. And if you're watching this and you're not in my live stream, also thank you for watching this, taking the time out of your day to go look it up, listen to it, hear me, see me. I appreciate everybody that comes in here. Thank you for tapping my screen, everybody. So, as you guys probably already know, I'm a mom. I have 5 kids. Many of you guys have seen my video of my 16-year-old who's going through whatever. I also have 2 kids who are on the spectrum. The rest of my kids were all just ADHD up in this house. So first job that I have in this world is being a mom. Other than that, I am a recovering IV user. I will be 9 years into recovery in July. So clock that T, because that's all me, buddy. Ain't nobody did that for me. Nothing that I'm ashamed of, everything that I'm proud of, because at one point in time, they said I would never get sober, and here I am, living my life in recovery. I'm also a mental health and addiction advocate, and I'm a swim teacher, which I absolutely love. I also like to longboard, skateboard, play basketball, climb trees, scuba dive, be out in nature, like pretty much anything that involves the sun and exerting all of my energy because I love that. You're also a swim instructor? No way. I love that. Look at us, just all swimming around here. On top of all of that, the number one thing that brought me here to make this, to start doing this, is that I'm a motherless daughter, but I refuse to stay broken. So everything that I'm going to be speaking on this podcast has came from a major awakening and self-realization. So we're going to talk about grief, we're going to talk about addiction, mental health battles, and ultimately self-healing. That's been my number one gift that I think that I have, is learning how to heal myself, and I stumbled upon that by accident. But I have a lot of hard-earned wisdom and what I like to think an enlightened perspective on many things, especially unlearning survival mode, reclaiming identity, and choosing authenticity over approval. So on here, I'm going to be doing a lot of honest storytelling. Some of it may be hard to hear. Some of it may not be hard to hear. Vulnerable conversations. We're going to peel back a whole bunch of layers of trauma, resilience, and identity, and also spiritual growth, which may be a touchy subject for everybody. And if people don't care for that, that is fine. I'm not here to try to influence you to believe what I believe. I believe everybody has the freedom to believe whatever they believe. You can believe in a higher power. You can believe in God. You can believe in whatever you want to believe in. But as for me and mine, I do believe in God. I am a very spiritual individual. I'm not religious, but it helped me get to where I am today. But by doing all of this stuff, I just want to prove to people that even in the absence of a mother's love, it's possible for you to mother yourself and reclaim your power. So this is going to be a super unapologetic exploration of transformation. Here, we're going to evolve intentionally. We're going to heal out loud and live boldly without apology. So I'm glad to have everybody here with me today. And I hope you guys are ready for some insane storytelling. I'm also going to be bringing other people here in person. I'm I'm going to convince my dad that he's going to come on here. And I think he'd be a great person to join in here because he's known me my whole life. We've been through a lot of crazy situations, but we've grown and we've had a lot of healing together separately. And I just think he's a great individual to have come on here. A Smith podcast that you can find I have a link in my bio. It has all of my platforms on there. I do off of Riverside is like the main place that I go off of, but I also will have it on my YouTube. And then I will put a few clips on here, but I'm going to do the podcast on here on live. This is technically my first episode. So this is going to be in a recording. I'm going to edit out some things or whatever, and then I'll use this. And then I'm just going to upload it onto my other platforms because I figured, I really like the engagement. Um, you guys will love my dad and you will understand why I'm the way that I am. I love the engagement. I want to engage with everybody. It's really difficult to try to maneuver how this is going to work because I don't just want people just to hear me out. I don't just want to talk about me this whole time. I do want to share my stories and the things that I've went through and how I got through what I got through and how I got to where I am today. But I also want to connect with other people, hear their stories, because even though I have information for myself, I believe that there's things that people have experienced themselves that you guys can give me information as well. And I want it to be a mutual connection here. So why did I decide to do this podcast? I stumbled upon a healing journey. And I didn't intentionally start my healing journey. I kind of went crazy, but in a good way. This time I didn't relapse. I didn't do any of that stuff. What ultimately happened was I went through my addiction and I spent, I would say, like 6 years or something living the way I thought society told me that I should be, living the way that I could fit inside of a box so that I wouldn't be disruptive or a burden on other people. And you can only do that for so long before your soul, at least my soul, is like, no, no, thank you. You're not doing this anymore. And I was going through such huge waves of depression. It was like, I could call it. I would be like, oh, here comes a depression. And I'd be in it for like 2 weeks. And then I'd come out and then I'd be like, okay, I got about a week and a half of happiness and energy. And then I was on medication for my ADHD and I got tired of living my life for everybody else. I realized that in the marriage that I was in, he's a good guy. He wasn't mean to me. We had a great relationship, but I just felt like everything I was doing was for everybody else. And as a mom, I know a lot of moms can relate to that. You have children and it stops being about you. That's fair, but you also, as a mom, need to remember yourself and you need to take time for yourself. And that was something that I didn't really do, especially after I entered into sobriety, because I felt guilty for my addiction in the first place. My husband and I separated, and I pretty much just said, fuck this. And I did whatever the hell I felt like I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. And I was like, I don't need this medication. I don't feel like I am who I am. So I took myself off of my medication. And it took me about 4 months for me to actually be confident in saying that I was no longer on my medication because it made me feel guilty. But then when I did that, I also had no idea how to control my energy, my emotions. I was just kind of like chaos. So I spent like all day longboarding. I would be at the lake. I would just be outside. Lisa and I, we kicked it every single day. We would stay in my car till like 3 a.m. And I was indulging in lettuce. And I'm going to have to use some of these terms because I am on a live stream. So I can't say the actual terms. If you know, you know. If you don't, then oh well. And I don't consider that a relapse because I just don't consider that in that category. And other people are going to have their own opinions with it. That's fine. I don't care. So I found myself sitting outside in all the time, every day, all the time. And the crazy thing about nature, and this is where the spirituality thing comes in, is that we are all connected. And this is something people underestimate, is that there's peace in nature. Nature will help ground you. Nature will help you think. It'll help you calm down. And I always knew that when I was outside in nature, I just felt better. I felt like I could breathe. And I started noticing that like I would stay outside for as long as I could. And then when I'd come home, I hated it. I didn't want to be here. And I'd be like, I couldn't wait to get outside again. And I would just be outside. And eventually it got to the point where I'm outside in silence. And then people started mentioning meditation. And I'm like, nobody wants to namaste all the time. Like to me, this was cheesy to sit here and like my interpretation of meditating was sitting there and going, you know what I mean? And not really understanding how to or what meditation does. And I always would say things like, yeah, my mind would never stop. I can't get my brain to stop thinking. I can't. And that's part of it. That's part of it because you're getting to know yourself, you're learning yourself, and you learn how to take control of yourself, and your mind. And so I started slowly meditating and it was difficult, but then I started meditating with being in nature and sitting in silence. And I got to a point where I was like, I can no longer do this lettuce. Because every time I would do lettuce, I felt disconnected. I felt like I couldn't have all the way pure thoughts. Like I just couldn't think that intensely. And I think that's a lot of what everybody does when they smoke is that, you have out there thoughts, but you're also really truly disconnected. It's kind of like spacey thoughts, and they may be really good and seem intelligent until you're no longer doing it. Then all of a sudden you're like, maybe I was just a whatever. So I didn't completely stop, but what I did do was I would only partake in that if everything was 100% golden. Like I couldn't be stressing about anything. I just had to be doing it like people would be doing it to socializing, when people go out and have a couple whatever and sips or whatever, then, that was kind of what I did with it. But then it got to a point where it was like, not at all. I couldn't at all because I couldn't connect with myself. I felt disconnected from the universe, from the world. I felt disconnected from God. And truthfully, I've always been connected with God because my dad is assistant minister. So thank you for that. Um, I grew up in the church. We did Bible camp, did Bible school. We went to church every Sunday. We did Christmas caroling, picking ditches, all kinds of stuff, everything involved with the church. So I've known God my entire life. And then when I meditated, once you get to a certain part of meditation, you start learning about, you know, spirituality, and everything will bring you back to God. And that's fine if you guys I'm out of here because she said that. I don't really care. I really, truly don't. But I started reading the Bible. And when I tell you, it blew my mind because I've read parts of the Bible before. I've read parts of the Bible, and it was just, simple things like he is in me, like he is in you, and everything else around us. That seems very basic until you really think about it. It's like, God is the light. And then they tell you, don't dim your light. Like, it's like little codes that people say throughout your whole life that you don't really realize have big meaning to it. And as I'm reading this Bible, I'm literally pacing back and forth in my bedroom, and I'm like freaking out because I'm like, yo, what is going on here? Does anybody know what this thing is saying? It's not saying what they told us that it was saying. It's actually saying this. And it's not as literal as people think it is. This is all, like they said, Jesus speaks in parables to separate the believers from the non-believers. And then that alone made a huge click. So then I was like, noted. When I run into certain people and I feel like they have this misunderstanding, I'm like, oh no, you're not a believer. And I just note that, you know what I mean? I'll never judge anybody because of it, but I'm super aware now that I can try to share things with people, and their responses or their reaction to certain things will give me enough information about what I need to do with this energy if I need to allow it into me. And that's the wild thing about the Bible, spirituality, meditation, the universe, and science. It's all connected. So once I figure that out, I'm like, quantum physics, what does this mean? So then I start looking into it, and everything just started clicking. And I'm like, it's in me. This whole time, it was in me. I don't need this medication. I don't need to be a certain way. I was made this way for a reason. I was spending my whole life trying to fit in with people, and I was never intended to. The reason why I kept getting depressed and why I kept feeling like I lacked was because I wasn't being real with myself. I wasn't being who I was intended to be. I was being what the world wanted me to be. And I was like, cool. Now what? Well, now I need to figure out, what does Anita want? What does Anita think? How does Anita feel? How do I do that? And that's when I exited everything out of my life, pretty much. No TV, no music, no nothing. And I sat alone in silence, and I meditated like I was addicted to it or something. And then I would read the Bible. It was like I would go to sleep and I would wake up and I would be like, where's this Bible? And it was like a game for me. I would grab it and just go, and I'd open it and I'm like, every day, this man knows what to tell me. And and even now, it makes me so excited to think about it because it's everything that I needed to hear. And from that point on, once I understood the connection of everything in this world and me and God, couldn't nobody tell me nothing. I don't care how you feel about what you think I should be like, because that is not who I am. Who you thought I was or who I was being for you is not me. And if this person that I am disturbs you, then let it be, because I deserve to be happy. I deserve to live my life, and I deserve to live it to the fullest potential of what I was intended to be and why I'm here in the first place. So then you start going through all these things and you're like, everything happens for a reason. And everybody's like, oh, yeah, there's like, you can't have bad. You can't have good if you don't have bad. But these crazy things happen for you. A reason why they happened. And are you going to let it break you, or are you going to pick it apart and figure out, what did I need to learn from this? And how can I apply this in the future? So what I really did was like, okay, everything starts in the beginning. I can fix me now, but the only way to fix me now is I have to go back and I have to face my shadows. So I started picking apart my past, because they also say that we have trauma from 7 years before us, and then from 7 years after us, that those generations will also deal with the traumas from us. So it's not just me, but this came from my parents, my grandparents, my great grandparents. All this stuff was passed down to generations, and some of it is still affecting me. So I was like, okay, Anita, in order for you to feel depressed, in order for you to feel anxious, in order for you to feel sad, you must feel lack. What in your life made you feel that you were less than or that you lacked? So I went back as far as I could remember to the first time I ever felt like I wasn't good enough, or that I had to be something that I wasn't. And it was literally from my childhood, like from the very, very, very beginning of my childhood. I grew up 14 miles from Canada. It's just right off a Native American reservation. It's pretty much on a Native American reservation. My dad's from Trinidad. My mom is from Minnesota. My dad moved here when he was about, I don't know, 16 to 18, somewhere along those lines. He joined the Air Force. He got stationed out in Thief River Falls or East Grand Forks, one or the other. That's where he met my mom. My mom's from Thief River Falls or Bemidji. She's from Minnesota somewhere. And they met. My mom's family is racist. So before I was even born, I wasn't approved of. And my parents moved right off onto a reservation, or right next to a reservation. So not only did half of my family already not want us a part of their lives or care about us or like who we are, I grew up in a town of everybody that looked nothing like me. I don't have any relatives in my state. I don't have anybody that looked like me, sounded like me. You know, they called my dad the Black Cowboy. He built a rodeo arena in the town that we were at. And I think there was one other Black family. So there was probably like 5.5 Black people there. But from that start, from before I was even born, I didn't have a place. You know, and even though I was a baby and I didn't know that, growing up, I knew that. I knew half my family didn't care, didn't want nothing to do with us. And so we grew up in this really tiny town with a whole bunch of, you know, all Native Americans. And there's good people, there's bad people everywhere you go. But we dealt with a lot of racism. The town that we lived in, the school was probably like 2 blocks away. And it's a small town, less than 1,000 people. So I grew up like this country life, right? Remember that, because that also plays a huge part. The school that we went to, my brother used to get beat up all the time. They used to always call us racial names. Like, it was just ridiculous. The town, every single day, like, the N-word was part of everybody's vocabulary pretty much. We heard it all the time. And people used to make fun of me because of my hair. They called me Tina Turner. They called me Grand Canyon because I had a big old booty. Like, they made fun of me. So because of the way that I looked and they were so harsh on me, I had brothers and a dad. I dressed like a boy. I dressed like a boy, act like a boy, talk like a boy, did everything like a boy. I hung out with boys because I didn't feel comfortable in the female body that I was, because of how everybody would talk to me the way they talked to me. And in return, instead of, I don't think as a kid you had that concept of like killing people with kindness. Instead of like embracing all of what that I was, I tried to hide what I was. And then I became, I'm going to get you before you got me. So I was kind of a rough kid. You know, I also fought every day, and usually boys. And it was just, no matter where I went, I didn't have a place. So when I was in my first grade, my brother kept getting beat up. And then my parents were like, no, forget this. So we went to a school 20 miles away from the town that we lived in. And this was pretty much an all-white school. And we had to ride a short bus with the number 13 duct taped to the side, 3 to a seat. and we had to wake up early in the morning, and it took us about an hour to get to school. This sounds like some old school story. This is legit true. That school never had any problems ever. Like, we went to school there, best school. Everything was cool there, and there was a few more Black people there, not very many. I think maybe like 3 more, maybe. But even then, like, I don't think anybody ever called us out of our names or even said anything like that to us. So it really wasn't that big of a deal to us. I realized now at 30, when I'm picking apart my past, I'm like, yeah, Anita, you just never fit in. You never had anybody to relate to. Like my mother, she's white, so she didn't look like me. She didn't understand the things that I was going through. I didn't have any other mixed friends around me. I had one mixed friend, and her mom was white, and, we weren't even really that good of friends. So I realized that that's where my initial lack came in. And because from my young childhood, never finding a place where I fit, never finding my people, never understanding that, I was not intended to find a place, that I was supposed to make a place. This took me like 30 years to figure out. And because of that, I was untrue to who I was. So I was somebody that I thought I should be. And what that did to me was more traumatic than I realized. And then when I hit about 13, mind you, in first grade, when we went to the new school, my mom went away to nursing school. So she was gone for like the next, I don't want to say 8 years, 6 to 8 years. I lived with my dad and my brothers. So my dad and my brothers, my childhood memories are all my dad and my brothers. And that's kind of also very hard because, my mom's not here anymore. I just grew up around boys. So my dad never treated me any differently. He always told me that, it doesn't matter that you're a girl. You are capable of doing every single thing that anybody else can do, and you can do it better if you want to. Like, nothing holds you back in life. And he didn't treat me any differently. My siblings might say differently, but they're lying. Anyways, so I also didn't have a mom around. She was there up until like the first grade, and then she went to nursing school. And if you know anything about nurses, when they get out of nursing school, they're gone all the time anyways. And that's what happened when she got out of nursing school. She did come back. She moved like 100 miles away. So we would go see her on holidays and stuff. But other than that, it was just my dad and my brothers. And then after she graduated from nursing school, I don't even know how long it was that we stayed there, but all of a sudden we had to move. And this was a huge cultural shock to me because I grew up in a really, really tiny town. Like I said, it was less than 800 people. And then we had to move to Fargo. And Fargo is not like a huge city. And it's not, I don't really consider it a city now, but it's a city in North Dakota. It's the biggest city in North Dakota. So when I moved here, it was like game on because we hardly ever seen semis for one. It was the first time I ever met Africans. It was the first time I met so many other different races because all I really knew was Native American, white, and then us mixed kids. Like, you don't really see diversity that much. And so when I moved here, I started meeting more Black people, and I'm like, yeah, these are my people. I met all these different races, and that's who I started kicking it with, but I didn't pick the best group of friends to hang out with. I also was pretty sheltered. So my dad was really strict. And when we moved to Fargo, my parents switched places. So my dad then went back to college to be an electrician, and my mom was home. My oldest brother was out of the house, and I had my one brother. He and I were always super, super close. It was pretty much him, my mom, and I. But going from a super strict parent to having like a friend parent at home when you're freshly turning a teenager, that's wild. That was a whole different thing. On top of that, it was my responsibility to get to and from school. If I had practices, I had to get to and from there. When I got old enough to get a job, I had to get to and from my job. It was like so much freedom in such a big place that I never experienced before. It was overwhelming for me, but it was also super thrilling because at this point, nobody knew I had ADHD. And it wasn't until I was 16 that they were like, hey, this chick's got ADHD, and my whole little life, they had me in anger management classes because they thought I had anger problems. But in reality, I just had trouble like handling my emotions, and I was all over the place. So they put me in anger management, and the person who's my anger management, she would just sit there and watch me play games. And she's like, and how's that make you feel? Completely pointless. Nothing ever came of it. It was pointless. It was pretty pointless. So now I moved into a new place with my mom. My dad's not there. I have all this freedom, and I went buck wild. Um, my dad wasn't there to tell me no. And he was concentrated with school, so he couldn't just leave school and give up his education just to come back because I wasn't coming home. The first time I ever partaked in like lettuce was with my mom and my brother. And I couldn't even talk. I just laughed. Like all I would do was laugh, 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 laugh. That was like the only thing I could do. I didn't know who I was, where I wanted to be, but I was determined to find people. I was determined to find my place because I seen so many cool people and so many new things that I had no idea about. And then I chased after the thrill of everything. If I knew I wasn't supposed to be doing it, I'm doing it. It didn't matter what it was, I was doing it. And that is kind of how Lisa and I got caught up with that grand theft with the motorized shopping carts was because we were like, "Hey, this looks fun. Let's take these." And I'm like, "Yeah, we'll bring them back." And she's like, "All right, cool." And so we just take these carts, and then cops on bikes pulled us over. I ran, she didn't, but I went back because she didn't, and I figured I'd get in trouble anyways. And then from that point, now I'm in the system. And then I feel like if people would have tried to help me or talk to me and figure out what I wanted to do or gave me more support. Because for one, I'm a sick basketball player, probably because I grew up with my brothers. But I gave all of that stuff up because I was chasing a thrill. But I also didn't have people be like, hey, Anita, it's time to go to basketball or pick me up from my basketball practice. My dad always showed up to my basketball games though. Even if he was in college, he still came to my basketball games. So that's one thing about my dad that I absolutely love is that even though nobody showed up, he always showed up. I could always rely on the fact that I had my dad there. And I think I've always felt like a lot of times in my life that it was just him and I. Even though there was other people around, I don't feel like there was many people who got me like he got me, and I also feel like there's many people that didn't understand him, and I used to also relate myself to him, and I realized that, he's from Trinidad, none of his family's in the States here, and he used to say that too, you just have to do what you have to do. I don't have any family around here, and so I've always kind of admired the fact that he's been able to gracefully live life without it looking like he ever struggled, even when he was struggling. And that's something that I want to be. Like, I want to be like him because he's so cool, calm, and collected. You would never know that if he ever had an issue, you would never know it. Like, he just got his shit together. So, my whole life, I had no family around. I'm the only girl in the family. I'm the baby of the family. Um, my life was nothing like anybody else around me. Nobody could relate to me at all. And I never connected with anybody. And even to this day, the people I connect with are on the other side of the screen. I don't have people there next to me that I can chill with. When I go on my nature walks, when I do any of this, I'm by myself. I sit in my room by myself, which is probably why I have such good conversations when I make these things because I talk to myself anyways. So why not talk about and get the things that I want to talk about out loud for people to maybe relate to? That's my number one shadow is that I realized that was what was making me feel like I lacked connection. I lacked connection with people. But just because I lack connection with people, what about that in you, Anita, is telling you that you're not good enough? Like, what does that have to do with you that makes you feel like you have to change something? And I was like, there's nothing wrong with me. And I rewind all of that, all of those memories, and I look at all this stuff, and it was like, yeah, I was just a different kid, but I didn't lack anything. I wasn't slower than the rest of the kids. I still had abilities like all the other kids. I there was nothing different about me, but because I couldn't find my place, I felt bad about who I was. So instead of embracing who I was, I would do all these different things just to fit in with these people or fit in with that people, even if it meant I was doing something that was harmful to me or other people. And that's when I was like, okay, now you know that you don't lack, so what can you do to fix this? And that was just learning to be okay with who I am. Hey, Jenny. And learning to take up space, being okay with being loud, and to stop keeping the peace. If I felt like something or I needed to say something, I'm going to say it. If I felt like something was wrong or I didn't agree with this or you did something, I'm going to say it. And if I feel like I want a longboard at the age of 35 at night with a headlamp on, I'm gonna do it. I don't care if people think that I'm too old to do it. I'm gonna do it because that's what I want to do. When I created this TikTok and I started making videos, I got the same backlash for it. Like even to this day, none of my family's in here. I'm sure there's some family that watch me on the other side of the screen. I have family members that will hit me up when they start seeing things going on in my life, but they're not there for me. Like they're not saying nothing to me. My aunts and my uncles will, but other than that, like, no. If what am I trying to change who I am to improve, to impress anybody else when they don't give a shit about me? They don't want me to embrace who I am because people are so used to what they believe you to be that they can't fathom the fact that you evolved or that you changed or that you grew up or that you did something, especially when you go from such extremes. Like, they never expected me to have kids because they thought that I was just into girls. And then I had 5 children. They said that I would never get sober. And now I'm running up on 9 years. They said I would never amount to anything. They said I couldn't do, and here I am. And everything that I've got, I did it myself. My dad's helped me with my car and stuff like that, but but everything I did to turn my life around was all on me. They didn't help me with anything. They didn't pay my bills. They didn't pick me up when I was locked up. They didn't, none of that. I had one cousin that would leave me messages when I was locked up, but none of anything that anybody else does in this world is for me. So why am I doing everything in my life for everybody else and still I'm not happy? That ain't it. So I'm going to worry about myself and what I'm going to do. I started being extra real with myself and it hurt a lot of people's feelings. I lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot of fake support. Um, I watch people that I know close to me do similar things of what I'm doing. They've reached out to me for resources or help, but they don't give the same in return. And I go through that little spiritual battle of like forgiving. Like you should just forgive everybody for everything. You can forgive people, but that doesn't mean you have to exert yourself for people. I did. Yes, actually. Yeah. You missed that part. I went crazy. So this is after I went crazy that I shook myself enough to the point where I was like, okay, I need to address my shadows. That was my first shadow, was realizing that I always felt like I never had a place. And I've always said that to my dad, these aren't my place. This isn't my place. These aren't my people. I don't belong here. I hate the way the grass is green. I hate the way the sky is blue. I hate the way the wind blows. I don't like the way it smells out here. Like, this isn't my place. I hate it here. I hate it here. I hate it here. And it wasn't that I hated it here. It was that I hated who I was being here because it wasn't who I was supposed to be. And I just needed to find who I was. And once I started to find who I was, people drop like flies, and that hurts. So then now you're dealing with emotions and you're like, holy cow, what is this? Because I also, I'm part of that generation, one of the last of the latchkey kids. Children are meant to be seen, not heard. Our emotions are not really valid. They don't really give a shit why you're feeling some type of way. They ain't got time to hear about it. Get the hell out of my face. Like that's how I was raised also. So you either were happy, mad, or sad. That was it. I didn't really understand excited or everything was like, oh, I have anxiety. Something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong. No, girl, you're excited. You're ready for this. You're hyped for this. But I had to learn all of these emotions. And I also had to learn how these emotions were my body telling me what's up in my life. Not that I needed a medication to make it go away. I needed to understand my emotions, what they're telling me, and how to utilize them so that I could better myself. And so that the next time I go through it, I'll be like, oh, right now I'm just tired, or right now I'm excited. I'm not anxious. I'm excited. Something big's going to be happening. Or right now I'm scared. What are you scared of? Okay, so I must feel like I'm not. Usually when you're fearful, it's because you feel like you're lacking. It feels like at some point somewhere you feel like you aren't good enough or you won't be able to show up the way that you need to. So it was like literally being so self-aware of every emotion, every feeling that I was having in the moments of having them, and dissecting them apart as to why I was feeling the way that I was feeling in those moments. Was those feelings true? Or was this because of something that happened in my past that made me relate them together and made me believe that it was true? And I quickly realized that a lot of this was just a perception, or I perceived that I was feeling a certain way, but I wasn't really feeling a certain way. This reminded me of this. So now I'm reacting or responding in this way. And then once I got a grip of that, I was able to slow myself down, but I also had to be very protective of who I had around me. So I kind of like isolated myself a lot. And I was super selective of who I go around with. And even to this day, I'm that way. Like, people like, I never see you. You downright. I be hiding out because you guys make me itch. I can't trust you. I don't believe you. And it's not that, thank you. It's not that there's anything that people need to change for me, because people are who they are. I don't want people to change for me. And also, the world doesn't need to tiptoe around you. It is not the world's responsibility to tiptoe around your triggers, your emotions, your thoughts, your feelings. It's your responsibility to make sure that you take care of yourself completely. And so I was like, all right, cool. I'm just gonna take out, you disturb me, get out. You disturb me, you get out. You disturb me, get out. And I did that with everybody around me. And pretty soon it was like, yeah, it's dry out here. And then the other ones that didn't, they dropped off on their own. And that hurt. But instead of finding some type of way to run from it, I would lay in my room. I put on my headphones. It wasn't white noise, but it was just like, I don't know what noise it is. Like the weird color noise, brown, black, whatever noise it was. And I'd put a towel over my face and I would just sit there and feel it. Because that's the number one way to get through all of your stuff, is first acknowledge it, feel it for what it is, accept it, and let it go. And that feeling it is so important. You gotta feel it through, and it hurts. But guess what? The next time you go through something like that, you're like, I know what's gonna happen. I got about 3 days of sadness. After that, I'm gonna sit here, I'm gonna pick it apart and think about it. All right, cool. You know what? It is what it is. It ain't what it ain't. And I'm glad that it isn't what I thought it was, because I dodged that then. And then you just pick yourself up. And the one thing I realized, that it didn't matter what happened, I still kept going. Nothing in my life really changed. Things I thought were gonna change, but they didn't actually change. So then it was like it empowered me to keep moving forward. It was like when I would realize that people were doing certain things to me, or not even to me, because I don't like to say that, because it makes me feel like I'm playing victim, but I'm not. It's just like when certain things weren't what I thought that they were, or when things didn't work out the way that I expected them to, because here I am putting expectations on stuff. It was like oh, it's a challenge. All right, cool. So, and sometimes there was an extra emotion with certain things, but every time I learned, and not only did I learn my emotions, I picked up on patterns so well that it was like I could see the slightest switch in somebody's eye, like their response to something, even in their type of behavior, like when they pull back on a communication, or even in their text message, or the way they're carrying themselves. And I'm like, oh, that's different. All right. I learned to not speak up. I learned to play dumb. I will let somebody tell me and teach me anything, and I may already know it. You're not going to know that I know it, but you look awfully proud teaching me this. So go, little rock star. I let it be. And then the problem with that is people get too confident in their bullshit, and they think that you don't know. But then I'm really quick to pull the rug out from underneath you, because I don't do second chances. I ain't got time for the bullshit. And, I'm not going to waste my breath or my energy explaining to you how I picked up on your pattern, how I saw the energy shift, and why I ghosted you. And I don't just ghost people out of nowhere. You know what you did. You know what you did. And you know what you were trying to do. But because I was so kind to you, you took that as weakness. And now you're shocked that I walked away, and I'm not coming back. And we could be cool, we could be nice, and I'll be civil with anybody. I'll forgive anybody for anything, because I too did dumb shit. And I also wasn't the greatest person, but I'll never forget, and I'm not going to be blind about it. So I appreciate your true colors, but no thank you. But taking that time to sit in silence, connect with nature, reading the Bible, digging apart my shadows, help me learn how to maneuver myself with myself, so that now, like going through shit every time, every single time I go through something, there's a huge blessing on the other end. I'm not even playing. Like when things start going wrong, I'm like, ooh, what we got in store? What we gonna have? What's going on? Because some good happens every single time, and every time I bounce back like 100 times more. It's like my addiction. At one point, I was homeless with a backpack and my mother's ashes. Nobody would talk to me. I came back. I lost everything. My house, my car, my kids. I came back, got all of that back and some. And now I learned so much stuff that I will never make that mistake again. But it was not easy to dig apart your past. It wasn't easy to face your shadows because it's those things that you absolutely, there's a lot of it is things that you don't even realize that are traumatizing to you. There are things that you don't even realize that you're running from, that you didn't realize really truly affected you the way that it affected you. I knew my mom's situation. Anybody's parent who takes their own life, that's going to really affect you on a deep level. I didn't realize that that gave me abandonment issues. I didn't realize that that's the reason why I didn't trust nobody. I didn't realize that I self-sabotaged because I had abandonment issues and I couldn't trust anybody, and that all stemmed from her. I realized that it was really hard for me to connect with women. I will take a man's word before I will take a woman's word because I've learned through that situation that I could not trust a woman. And I had to unlearn that for myself because that's not true. And now I've gotten so many female friends that I don't know why I held myself back from those connections because they're the most fulfilling connections. It's absolutely what I needed in this life. I've been around men my whole life. I can like, I'm not I'm good with expressing my emotions and talking about this stuff here, but in real life, I'm feeling some type of way. I will cry to my dad before I tell you that you hurt my feelings. Like it's hard for me to be like that. And it's hard for me to be emotionally available. I have to consciously do that. And I think a lot of that is just from the lack of allowing feminine into my life because the first major feminine person in my life did me the dirtiest. But that was a mindset that I had to change. So I took all of that and I was like, all right, cool. So that's one shadow. Because you know what I also realized? This happened to me at work the other day. And this is off subject now that you said that, but I was talking about God at work. We were in the locker room and it came up because somebody was going to like a Jehovah's Witness thing and it was like on a weird day. And I'm like, what kind of church is this? Somebody was like, oh, it's a cult, blah, 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 whatever. And we got into this whole subject and I was like, talking about how I'm not religious, but I was baptized into the Mormon church and I love the Mormons. They're good, decent people. And then I was explaining why I don't feel like I'm religious. Yeah. Oh, good. I want to make you think. And as I'm speaking about this, I'm getting louder and louder and louder. And one of my coworkers was sitting across the locker and she's like, hey, Anita, I know that you're really passionate about this, but you need to be a little bit more quiet because I don't want other people to hear. And immediately I got mad. Like I was mad. I didn't even say anything. I just went, and in my mind, I'm like, you're just mad. Don't say anything. Don't say anything. Don't say anything. And I couldn't say nothing. And I'm just like, and I looked away and went and changed my clothes. I came out and then she was like, hey, I wasn't trying to be an ass to you or anything. It's just that, you're talking about religion and, I don't know what families are on the other side of the door and you were speaking really loud. I know you're passionate about it. And I'm like, no, you know what? It's okay. You just embarrassed me. My initial response was to be angry because I was embarrassed. You're not wrong because we are at a public place. This is my job. We're talking about religion. That is touchy. I'm working with people's kids. It's not something that I should be speaking about so loud. And I know how passionate loud I can get. And being able to realize that I was being angry in that moment, to stop myself so that I didn't respond out of anger, but to also be able to just openly say, I was embarrassed. It embarrassed me. And my initial response was to be angry, but I didn't have a right to be angry. So I didn't say anything at all. You know what I mean? And just apologize to her if I was like, yeah. And I was like, I'm sorry if I gave you a dirty look. And I just didn't want to respond out of anger. And she was like, no. And to this day, we're cool now. You know what I mean? We were never not cool, but I know that that was a really rough moment. And I could have responded in any kind of way that old me would have responded, but I knew I was understanding my emotions, and I would have never understood those emotions if I would have never taken that time to go back into my past, dig it apart, and face some of my shadows. And yeah, because I could give some dirty looks, and I tried not to. And yeah, it does. And it's hard because especially when you get anxious and you get worked up and everything inside, like your armpits, like your heart starts banging. And it was just a lot. It was a lot. But when I left, I felt so relieved. As embarrassing as that was, when I went out, I got in the car, I was like a huge weight was off my chest. And I was like, dang, I could have made a fool out of myself. I could have been an asshole, but I didn't. And I'm glad that I learned those lessons and I've taken that time. And back to what I was saying. So my mom was bulimic. She got her teeth pulled. She was also a nurse. And then she got addicted to the pain pills. And it went downhill from there. And some of the things that she did, to this day, I don't know if it was because of the stuff that she was dabbling in or if it was her mental illness. But that was also a huge life-changing moment for me. And that was one of my darkest shadows that I had to face. I'm going to dig into that on the next episode of Everything because I feel like that's going to be a lot. And that is something that I think would be a good idea for my dad to be here because we had to face, nobody really understood bipolar. I didn't know that there was paranoia that came with it or like schizophrenia or hallucinations. There was a lot of weird things that went on that we weren't aware. It can look like there's something, substances are involved, but it really wasn't. It was, what is the word I'm looking for? Um, Psychosis. I didn't know that, psychosis and bipolar even was a part of anything until I was like 28. And I started reading about bipolar and I was like, she wasn't using anything. She was going crazy. She needed help, and that was a really, 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 really hard pill to swallow because now it's like 10 years after. At that point, it was like 10 years after she had already taken her life, and that whole escapade of those years that I went through, nobody else was around. It was just me and my mom and my friends. So I went through all of this being a parent, being a mother to my mother who should have been mothering me without getting any mothering was really difficult. So I made a lot of questionable choices and it's very complex, which I think would be so good for my dad to be here because a lot of what was going on, my dad had no clue about. And ultimately how my mom ended up taking her life was because I did expose her. And I told my dad everything. I'm telling you, I asked him when I originally started doing this, I asked my dad if he would do it with me. I wanted to do a father-daughter podcast. Because my dad and I, since I got into recovery, we have talked about a whole bunch of things. And I mean, like, we've cried, we screamed, we've whatever together. We've broken so many things down. I wish my siblings would do the same with him because I learned so much about him. Like, I learned who Carl Smith was, not just my dad. Like, there's so much more to him than what we saw as kids. And I see such a change in him. He learned lessons too. There was things that I know he wish he could have did differently that he didn't do. And he's also got to live with that. As far as being a husband, a father, everything like that. So I wanted him to do this with me because I feel comfortable with him. I tell him all of my secrets. He knows everything about me. Yeah. So like if you ever do me dirty, yeah, I tell my dad. My dad knows. And if I have to tell my dad on you, that means that your chance is screwed. We can no longer be friends anymore. We can no longer date anymore, whatever the case may be. If I ever have to go tell my dad on you, that's it. It's done for. Because now I can't bring you to him. You can't come to his house. And he's so smart. Like the things that I've learned, the knowledge that I spit at you guys, yes, I've learned it myself, but a lot of things I've learned from my dad. His voice was the voice that made me get sober. His voice was the one that gave me strength when I was like lost, like when I was hallucinating and everything. I would hear my dad's voice because I also dealt with drug-induced psychosis because I was whatever. That's another story too for another episode. But um, yeah, I really want to bring him on here, and I know he will come on here so we can talk about what we experienced when it came to my mom, what we were unaware of, and why I think it's so important for people to speak up and speak out, share their stories, because you don't know who needs to hear that. You don't know whose life you're going to change. You don't know who you're going to educate. Because had people told me, or if I would have known, or I would have heard somebody who had a similar story to my mom, literally thought only us, had somebody shared their story, maybe I'd still have a mom today. And maybe I wouldn't have went down that path, and maybe my whole life would have been different. But we are so conditioned to believe that the ugly, the harsh, the dirty, the dark stuff is to be kept quiet. Don't share it. Don't talk about it. That's too harsh for people. Absolutely not. You better talk about it. Say it with your chest out. Say it loud and clear. Matter of fact, say it 3 more times, just in case they didn't hear you the first 2 times. Don't ever keep anything in. You don't know who you're helping. You don't know who didn't know that information, who needed to hear that information. So if that means that I got to put myself on blast and expose all of the ugly that I had to face in life, I'll do that, because I didn't just have to face this ugly, I made it through it. And I made it through with knowledge and strength and wisdom. And I can pass that along to people who've never stepped into it, or people who are stepping into it, or people who are in the middle of it. And that can change their lives. And they won't have to suffer as much as I suffered in the way that I suffered. And that's my whole goal with this. And as time goes on, there's so many people that I have that are wanting to come on here. I know now, I never knew what my purpose was, but they said I was too loud. I was too rowdy. I talked too much shit. I questioned everything. I always was always trying to prove everybody wrong. And that was always a problem, but those are actually my strengths. Because no matter who says anything to me, I'm still going to keep talking. I'm still going to post my videos. I'm still going to help people. I'm still going to speak about stuff. And there's things that I know people who are close to me are probably trembling like, is she going to bring this up? Yeah, I am. I would be nice enough to not mention your names, but it's kind of like what Cat Williams said. If you wanted me to talk nicer about you, then perhaps you should have treated me better. And I think that's fair in both ways. You can put me under the bus because I will. I wasn't always nice to everybody. I didn't always do everything good. I wasn't always this certain people or this certain person. But yeah, if you did something that was traumatizing to me and I had to figure out my way through it and I had to pick myself up through it and I had to heal myself through it, guess what? I'm going to talk about it because you had no right to do that to me. And I have every right to speak on things that hurt me. And I can help somebody else being married to a narcissist. That was wild. Even down to having family members that look at you in an inappropriate way or think that you should have some inappropriate relationship with them. That's not cool. You think I'm not going to talk about it? You think it didn't affect me? Huh. Because I will. Because it's not okay for people to do that to other people and then try to manipulate them to keep their mouths shut. Because now I have to hold this in within myself. So unfortunately for people who have done things not so pleasant in my life, intentionally, unintentionally, yeah, I might talk about it. Will I mention your name? Absolutely not. But all of these things are a step to start healing yourself. In order for you to heal yourself, you got to peel it all back. You got to face every single thing that you went through that traumatized you. And sometimes you don't realize that you're traumatized when you're being traumatized until you're traumatized. And then you're like, oh shit, that really fucked me up. But the good thing about it is that everything passes. Just like that traumatic time happened, it's not happening. And that it alone is enough strength for you to be like, you're right. It's not happening. So what can I do to make sure this doesn't happen again? Well, you got to look at it. What did you miss? What didn't you miss? What could you have done differently? But I will continue to speak up. I will continue to come up here as North Dakota is being extra weird right now. So it's sunny, but it's cold. Ultimately, I'm going to be doing my live streams outside because nature's where it's at. Inside, I feel constricted. I feel rushed. Oddly enough, I talk really, really fast, especially like it's hard for me to process all of my feelings and my thoughts. When I'm outside, I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be and I'm able to be calm and collected. I mean, I'm pretty calm and collected right now, but I'm still talking really fast. Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome, Jenny. I love you so much. Um, right now I'm going live on Friday nights. I'm gonna change it June. So after June I'll be on more. Summertime it's on. Like I'll be on here all the time. But as of right now, I'm gonna do Friday nights at 8 p.m. It's been one hell of a journey, honestly. I was gonna start this podcast like a year ago. And I'm so glad. This is how I know God's got my back. This is how I know everything happens for a reason. Because the people I was gonna do it with, they never, everything I have done, I had to do it myself. Good. Your voice is strong. Your voice has power to it. Your voice has meaning. Use it. Say it with your chest out and never feel bad for anything. And remember that you are valuable and so are your words. And don't ever let anybody try to mute you. Let anybody try to dim your light. No, you know who you are. Don't let these people try to fool you and make you believe that you're supposed to be inside the box or act like your neighbor or the next person or you got to have it a certain way and do things a certain way. Absolutely not. You know who you are. And I think more people need to start speaking up. And I hope I encourage more people to start speaking up. I hope I encourage more people to expect less from everybody, but take less from everybody. And I also hope that I can get people to open their minds, open their hearts, be kind, be nice, be forgiving, but don't take shit from people. I think if we spread more love, more patience, and we tried to help each other a little bit more, yes, this life, this world will be different. All we have to do is literally move with love. Love. That's why the Bible's so important. Love thy neighbor. Don't be hateful towards people. People are people. People are going to screw up. People are going to hurt your feelings. But all you got to do is have good intention. Do something with the kindness of your heart, not because you want something in return. And, give people some grace, not too much grace. But if your intentions are good, good things will happen to you. So do good, good things will happen. And people need to stop being so selfish and help your neighbor, help your friend. Today was wild. I was driving down the street. I just picked my daughter and her friend up. And I happened to glimpse, I seen this lady sitting on the sidewalk and I could see blood on her face. And I'm like, oh, why'd God make me like this? Like immediately, because, I don't know this person and, blood's dangerous and I don't know the situation, but she was an old lady. So I was like, "Ah, crap." So I pull over and I get out and I'm like, are you okay? What's wrong? She's like, oh, I just tripped and I fell and I hit my head. She hit her head on the sidewalk. She split her forehead open. Her head looked dented in and had a big old bump here. I'm like, yo, you want me to call the ambulance? And she's like, no, 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 I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Just bring me back to my house. I'm like, well, where do you live? And she lived like around the corner here. So I'm helping her get up. And I smelt it. So she had been drinking something. And I was like, all right, well, it makes me nervous because I just brought her home, made sure she get inside, and then I left. So I hope everything's okay with her. But you know how many people would just drive past a person like that? And what I think about is if that was my mom, I'd want somebody to help her. If that was me, I want somebody to help me. There's been times where I've been in situations where I wish that those people that see me sitting there would have stopped and helped me, and they didn't. So now I just take that initiative. Don't wait for somebody else to do it. Do it. Just do it first. And if don't react if people say certain things about you or make you feel a certain way or try to throw you under the bus, let them. God will handle it. I promise you. Let karma come through. God will take care of it. You'll be protected. You're fine. And I don't want to blow my head up, but I have this crazy gift of an ability to just know and I can help people realize things that I didn't know that they needed help realizing. And also, for some reason, I help people heal stuff. So I either scare people away or people really like me. Like in real life, I get a lot more people that are sketched out by me. Like, how do you know this? Like, you told me everything I needed to hear today. And they're usually in tears. And one person had to go see a counselor last year because they said that I just shook them so much that they had to go see a counselor. Another person was bawling in the parking lot to me. I just went on a nature walk and had a conversation with you. And that made me feel really good because that wasn't in my intentions. But I'm pretty sure I'm pretty chosen. And there's so many people. I also think that the people that I connect with are also chosen people. And I think that's why we're far away from each other, is like they say, God had to spread the light. For all the darkness in the world, he had to spread the light around the world. So we're not going to be right next to each other. Yeah. Yep, for sure. And that's why I don't connect with people next to me. And that's why when I do connect with people, it's people on here. It's people way over here in Connecticut, New York, Florida. Like, nobody is here. And that's wild. But it's good that we can be there for each other and help uplift each other and keep each other lit so we can keep moving forward. That's why I always be saying stay lit. Not like that, but stay lit. Stay lit. Keep your little flame lit. Keep that little light of yours on. Spiritual gifts are a blessing. Didn't know that I had. I just thought that, like, I don't know, you just get lost in it. And that's what you need. You know what I mean? It's like I fill your cup and you fill my cup. And you guys don't know that even just the simple, like these simple things like that fills me back up. Like, and that's crazy things. I don't need materialistic things. I don't need you to give me anything. I just like little things like that mean the world to me. And then it helps me keep pushing forward. And then I can fill other people up. If it's just a word, if it's just time, if it's just grace, if it's just love, you know what I mean? Like, I say it all the time. I love you guys so much. You guys have no idea. Like, I know I seem really cool. I don't fuck with nobody. I be out here all by myself, man. Like, all by myself. Good, 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 good. Because I just want people to be happy. I just don't want people to be thinking that they don't belong here or that they don't have a purpose or they're not worthy. Like, I don't want people to be sad. I want people to love the life that they have. Even if every day isn't the best day, just it is the best day. Every day is the best day. Every day is a new day of your new life. And it's up to you what type of life that you want to have. So you can either dwell in what yesterday was, or you can start today and make a new life for tomorrow. And then it continues. If you guys want, is there anything specific that like you guys want to talk about? I'm glad I broke the ice with this because it's so stupid. Look, I go on live. I've done live for like over. Why was I so nervous to come on today? I was nervous as fuck to come on today. Probably because I had an agenda. Usually I come on here and I wing it. And also because I know I have to edit this and I'm going to post it onto on the other platforms. Yeah, we are the creators of our own reality. We are the creators of our lives. Whatever you want your life to be, it can be that. And even that saying in itself seems very minimal until if you know, you know. If you think it, it's going to happen. If you want it, you can achieve it. It's just so crazy that once you become enlightened and you get woken up, like you can't unsee the shit that you see. You can't unknow what you know. And it's hard to explain to people and get other people to. But once you know, you know. Once you see it, and it is what it is. But it almost makes life a little bit more difficult because now you're really selective. Before I was like, whatever, sure, cool. Now I'm like, yeah, you know what? Nah, not even for 5 minutes. But it's a better life than the life I was living before. This is an unknown that I can embrace because I know my intentions. I know what I'm moving with. I know where I'm going, where I'm at. Before it was like, I didn't. I didn't have my intentions sorted out, I don't think. That softening part is so hard. So hard because you lived in survival mode for so long. And eventually, Yazzie, you're going to get to a point where enough is enough and you won't. And that's why I say it's okay if you go crazy. Just make sure you come back because that's usually what happens. You're going to go crazy and it may be not like you're going to go tear crap up and go crazy, but you're going to get to a point where you're going to go crazy and you're going to do things that are like, why did I think this was okay? Like, why did I think it was okay for me to be out till 3 o'clock in the morning? Just listening to music in a car, chilling with lettuce, you know what I mean? At my age. And I'm like 30 years old doing that, I mean, I'm 35 now, but at that time, it was like I was so sure about what I was doing. Like, I was sure that it was fine for me to say fuck everybody else. It was fine for me to be taking this time for myself. I even put myself in some debt when I did that shit. And I was like, okay, no, I'm doing it. It's fine. It's cool. Everything's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be fine. I mean, everything was fine, but it put me in a tough spot for a while. But in those moments, I was so sure I needed to be where I was at doing what I was doing. Yeah, because you learned your lessons now, and that was just something you needed to learn. That was just knowledge you needed to learn, and also, I think it's a little bit of a release. I think that that little bit of chaos isn't just for us to learn lessons, I think it's for us to release. There was a there was something we needed to release and let go of, and now you got that release and you learned your lesson, so now you feel better, and now you're like, "Yeah, no, I'm good," but I'm gonna get off here. Thank you for coming in. I appreciate you. I was nervous for nothing. Why I do that? Like, I don't go here. Have a good night. I love